You are watching this video right now, maybe on your phone, maybe on a computer screen, and you're probably thinking this: time is passing. This video is playing right now. In a minute, I'll move on to another moment, but let me tell you something very unsettling. You are not actually experiencing something called now. Yes, you heard that right. Your brain experiences even the moment you call now with a delay. Scientifically speaking, everything you perceive already happened about half a second ago. So in reality, you are constantly living in the past. Pause here. Really feel this. The idea that time is not absolute was first seriously introduced by Albert Einstein. Before Einstein, people believed this. Time is the same for everyone. It flows at the same rate everywhere in the universe. But the theory of relativity completely shattered this idea. Einstein showed that as speed increases, time slows down. In strong gravitational fields, time flows differently. So time is not universal, is not fixed, does not operate the same way for everyone. This means time is not an independent background of the universe. It is something shaped together with space, matter, and energy. At this point, a very important break occurs. Because if time can change, maybe it is not a fundamental reality the way we think it is. A more radical idea in modern physics. Today's physicists go even further. According to some theories, at the most fundamental level of the universe, time does not exist. There are only events and changes. In other words, everything that happens in the universe may be perceived by our brains within a structure we call time. The famous theoretical physicist Carlo Rovelli says, "The universe is not inside time. Time is a product of the mind trying to understand the universe." This is a deeply unsettling sentence, because in that case, time is not a flowing river, not an external force, not the direct cause of aging. It may simply be a concept we use to describe change. So why does time feel so real to us? This is where the brain comes in. The human brain, as to put events in order, establishes cause and effect relationships, creates memories. For the brain, before and after are necessary for survival. But this does not mean that time truly flows in the universe. Neuroscience research shows this. We don't even experience the present moment in real time. The brain's perception of the world is delayed by about half a second. So while you are watching this video right now, you are actually experiencing the past. And this raises the question, if even the time we perceive is delayed, how real is the thing we call time? Now we are at a critical point. If time is not absolute, may not be a fundamental entity of the universe, is an organizational construct of the brain, then we have to ask this question. Was if time is not real, why do we age? From childhood, we are taught one sentence by heart. As time passes, humans grow old. It sounds so normal that no one ever questions it. But biology says something very different. Aging is not caused by time. At first, this sounds absurd. The clock moves forward, years pass, and we grow older. But science makes a very subtle distinction here. Time is not a cause. Time is only a measurement. What is aging, really? From a scientific perspective, aging is defined as this: the gradual decline of a cell's ability to repair and renew itself. The human body contains roughly 37 trillion cells. These cells are constantly dividing, renewing, copying themselves, but no copy is ever 100% perfect. With every division, microscopic errors occur. These errors accumulate over years, and the system slowly weakens. We give this accumulation of errors a name: aging. Telomeres, the cell's countdown timer. Inside every cell is DNA. At the ends of this DNA are protective structures called telomeres. Think of telomeres as, the safety caps of DNA. The problem is this: every time a cell divides, telomeres become slightly shorter. Eventually, the cell can no longer divide. At that point, the cell either loses its function or dies completely. This process does not depend on a clock, does not depend on a calendar. It is purely molecular and physical. Even if time stopped, you would still age. Let's be clear, that even if time stopped flowing, aging would still occur, because living systems consume energy, and every system that consumes energy wears down. Physics has a word for this: entropy. What is entropy? The tendency of order to break down. If a system operates, it degrades. If a system is open, it slowly falls apart. What does it mean to be alive? But it means slowly drifting toward disorder. The real question: time or change? Here's the critical distinction. Time, passive. Biological change, active. We observe changes first, then we invent a concept to measure them: time. But a ruler doesn't break a wall. It only reveals the crack. Time doesn't age you. Change does. That's why two people of the same age can look completely different. One ages rapidly, another much more slowly. If time were the only cause, everyone would age the same way, but reality clearly disproves that. When you put it all together, what emerges is this: time may be a measurement created by the brain. Aging is a fully physical and biological process. So yes, in blaming time is easy, but it's wrong. And this leads us to a dangerous question. If aging is not tied to time, is it possible to slow it down or even manipulate it? In the next part, we'll talk about genetic interventions, telomere therapies, cellular regeneration, and the most controversial experiments in modern science. And yes, some scientists are now openly questioning the idea that aging is inevitable. Can aging be slowed down? Yes, but not in the way you think. First, let's make one thing very clear. Science says this: aging cannot be stopped. A death cannot be cancelled. But aging can be slowed down. Your biological processes can be manipulated. So the issue is not immortality. The issue is how you age. How do scientists slow aging? What's happening in laboratories right now is this. And they are not fighting time. They are working on cells. Because we now know that aging is a cellular process. It begins at the molecular level. The most important scientific approaches. The calorie restriction. This sounds simple, but its effects are astonishing. Dozens of experiments have shown that organisms that consume fewer calories live longer and healthier lives. Why? Because when a cell receives less energy, it switches into survival mode. In this mode, it repairs itself more efficiently. It makes fewer errors. The shocking truth is this: abundance accelerates aging. That's why. Constantly being full, constantly receiving growth signals, wears cells out faster. Genetic interventions. Scientists no longer see aging as pure destiny. There are experiments showing that turning specific genes off or reactivating them can slow the aging process. In some laboratories, researchers have even observed old cells beginning to behave like young ones again. Telomere therapies. There was once an idea considered impossible: lengthening telomeres again. Today, this idea is no longer science fiction. Experiments involving the enzyme telomerase suggest that reversing a cell's biological age is at least theoretically possible. But here lies a very dangerous boundary. Uncontrolled cell division, cancer risk. Cellular regeneration. Aging cells accumulate in the body. They don't die, but they lose their function. Scientists call them zombie cells. Recently developed senolytic therapies aim to target these cells and eliminate them. In mouse experiments, the results are shocking. Stronger muscles, healthier organs, longer lifespans, the most controversial experiments in modern science. Some experiments go so far that ethical boundaries are seriously questioned. Gene editing, embryonic interventions, attempts to reverse biological age. At this point, a critical question emerges. Is science progressing or crossing a dangerous line? And perhaps the most disturbing question: if aging can truly be stopped or reversed, who will control this technology? For everyone, or only for a selected elite? That's why this issue is not only scientific, but also ethical, political, and philosophical. Aging is not an unprogrammed collapse. It is a partially managed process. But these experiments are short-term, tightly controlled, not yet safe for humans. So science is effectively saying, We can do it, but there may be a price. The most uncomfortable limit, entropy. And here we arrive at the wall we cannot cross. Physics tells us entropy always wins, no matter what you do. Energy-consuming systems degrade, order decreases in the long run. To be alive means, to be in constant conflict with nature. You can slow this battle down, but you can never win it forever. So what is the real question? Science is no longer asking, can we be immortal? Science is now asking, is it possible to collapse later? And the answer is, yes, but within limits. Aging is not destiny, but not fully under our control either. Understanding this balance completely changes how humans struggle with time. Maybe the real question isn't, does time make us age? The real question is, are we accelerating ourselves by the way we live? We are not racing against time. We are racing against ourselves. At the beginning of this video, we asked a simple question. If time isn't real, why do we age? Now looking back, the answer is more disturbing than we expected. Time is not a force pushing us forward, not an enemy chasing us. Time may simply be the language we use to observe what is happening. Aging, on the other hand, is cellular fatigue, the slow breakdown of order, the price of energy consumption. So we don't age because time flows. We age because we live. Maybe that's why two people of the same age can look so different. One wears themselves down, constantly pushes the body, never lets the mind rest. The other moves slower, more aware, more balanced. Time is the same for both, but the way they live is different. Science tells us this: we cannot stop time, but we can choose our speed. How we age is not about time. It's about how we live. And perhaps the most unsettling truth of all, a life is not valuable because it is short. It is meaningful because it is limited. If we were infinite, no moment would carry any weight. Maybe the present moment is so precious, not because it isn't real, but because it is temporary. So the question is no longer, how do we defeat time? The real question is, within this limited existence, how consciously will we live? If this video made you pause and think for a moment, maybe it wasn't about time at all. Maybe you realized something about yourself. And perhaps that realization was the most powerful effect time could ever have.